We're here to give you an update on our overall efforts with inclusion. Specifically, we wanted to share with you the success of the Multicultural Festival we had in September and a few other events and celebrations. So as you can see with the opening slide, it just was an amazing weekend of color and fun and food and literally the world coming to Renton. So it was a two-day event at Carco Theater and September 23rd, Saturday at the Pavilion Event Center. We had entertainment, food, dancers, and this year, the second year of the festival, we had almost double the number of people we had the year before. From our count, we had 2,600 people who came to the festival from around the region. So that itself shows that 1 year, how much the progress and really that this is here, it's definitely part of Renton and part of what people are expecting in the region. One of the best parts about the festival was not only was it amazing entertainment, food, music, etc., but it was an opportunity for people to really break down the barriers and to learn about each other. And so as we were planning the different program elements of the festival, we had asked our performers, saying, we want you to do whatever you can to make it interactive, and they did. So, the first photo here, you see the dancers from the Bharatanatyam dance at Carco Theater, and after their beautiful performance, they went on stage and explained their different moves and got the entire audience to stand up and dance with them. Probably the best highlight of the show was on Saturday at the event center. We had the Sikh community teaching people how to tie turbans and actually, tying the turbans on them. And so you had men and women, old and young, every different community and faith, even Miss Washington walking around with a turban.
I think even one of our council members.
And Benita says one of our council members looked very, very nice with a turban on, too. And then, of course, the music show, the last slide here, the drummers, they were playing the drums, and then they got the kids to play drums as well. Singers singing in their native language. We had the ethnic food trucks, again, giving, that extra flavor of international food, and various cultural booths, much more organized, much more engaging than we had the year before, where it was from, taking photo booths with wearing costumes to learning about art to different activities. As I mentioned, once again, we had, 3 stages, four stages, with one at Carco, 2 at the Pavilion Event Center, our storytelling tent. And then again, a huge kudos. This would not have been possible without, from the city, the Community Services Department, CED, staff from the mayor's office, really hands-on work from the Mayor's Inclusion Task Force, and volunteers coming from everywhere. This really was an example of everyone coming together to put this festival on, but also be part of the festival. Some more photos here about everything that the festival was about. Going on to what did we do here to, really get word out about the festival. And when I say that, it's also actually getting the word out about Renton. It's about branding Renton, about who we are, because that was certainly one of the key, additional key goals of the festival. So a lot of production of material. I'm holding up here, a sample of a flyer and a brochure we put out. We had this in different languages. We used different elements of, the previous year's festival to showcase. If it was to the Latino community, then the images had the Latino dancers. We did a lot of, distribution of this. It was not just about producing the material, but getting it out there through our partners, through the community. We had a very strong and robust advertising campaign for the festival. We used the funds that were from the lodging tax for that. Media releases, electronic newsletters, and again, a very, very strong and robust social media program. Just some of the big highlights. This is a copy of a Facebook post with the Filipino dance. It reached 83,000 people, almost 83,000 people. The posts on our Twitter wall at the festival reached 195,000 people. We had, it featured in the Evening Magazine. Evening Magazine is one of the top-rated local shows. And then we had advertising with the 101.5 radio, where we got, we had broadcast over 92 commercials. Well, before I do that, I do want to share that in terms of our marketing, we targeted the marketing in such a way that we reached out to the various ethnic community groups through their, favorite newspapers or media outlets. But we also reached out to kind of the broader regional standard outlets like Star 101.5, because part of our goal was also to bring families to the festival from various parts of the community to understand and to experience the diversity that this festival offered. If,
You want to do it on the table?
that's,
Okay, it'll.
no, it's okay. I was going to move on to share information on a few of the other events that we had in September, but wanted to know if you had any questions about the festival before I just touch on some of the other events and some of the other work that we've been doing in terms of inclusion.
Thank you. I just want to say, great job, first of all. And more importantly, I think also want to thank you for not including the pictures of the audience participation in the first one. So that's just for me personally, but.
I will remember that for next time then.
It should be
I
in
think
the
she saw us
commercial
negative.
for next year's event.
Not even the turban? The council with turban?
That was me.
I know.
That's fine. I'm saying he should be in the commercial for next year's event.
Yeah. So I was able to go to both days' events, and the Friday night event, I'll have to tell you, was extremely surprising. It was, yeah, that's right, we sat together. So it was very energetic, and it just got better with each group. I was really amazed at the level of talent. And it was interesting, you go to these kind of events and you'll see one kind of dancing, and it was really interesting watching it go from one culture to the next and seeing the differences, but also the similarities. So, yeah, I was extremely pleased with the Friday night event, so.
Including the participation of youth. To me, again, the
Yes.
fact that there were youth coming from, again, different facets and using, art to come together, to be focused, to have their own plans for, for life was just, I thought, fantastic.
I told you what my recommendation was, is to have the grand finale where like two dancers from each group get together and do one number. Because they did some of them took kind of more common pop songs
Yes.
and included them in with their style of dancing. So, yeah, good stuff.
So then, we didn't stop there, of course. 2 weekends after, or was it 1 weekend after, we had the Unity March, again, the second year of the Unity March in Renton. Another great opportunity to bring the community together to march, not to protest, but to march our, togetherness, which was wonderful. Primarily organized with the Renton African American Pastors Group, the police department, youth from Cry Out, and really opened it to the community. to, march together. We made a few minor changes in the way this was planned, and that worked out much better. We kind of started and ended at the piazza, and, it was just another wonderful coming together. And you can see from all the signs here that it really came from the heart. Just 10 days ago, we had another community event. This was a partnership with the Renton History Museum and the KCLS libraries, a community dialogue on race, based on a series of videos created by the Seattle Times. And this is for anyone who was not there and for the general public. These are available if you go to seattletimes.com and search for Under Our Skin. Anyone can watch these videos, and they are videos which then prompt conversation and dialogue on different terms and interpretation of terms. And people were in small tables, were just completely having candid conversations coming together from different parts. And each and every table, the one feedback was, this is great, we should do it again. So Councilmember Corman was there, and he was originally supposed to be there for a little while, and he was there all the way through the end, and just another reason just to show that this is the kind of thing that really brings the community together.
If I may, yeah. So, I thought that was a terrific event. The videos were really good. My wife had actually seen the videos, but I had not. She'd been trying to tell me about them, that they were good, and so I hadn't seen them before we went in there. But watching those with the group were really interesting. Getting different people, hearing different people's opinions on words that we use all the time, terms that we use all the time, and the meanings of these terms and how they change with time and how they're perceived. But then I had intentionally, as I was going to do an introduction, but it was so interesting, and I intentionally sat down at a table with people that I hadn't really met before. There was some there that I'd maybe known, but I found a table with probably the fewest people that I actually knew, and we had great conversations. And I was really surprised how open people were with people that they just met. About the topic of race and the different words that people use. What does it mean to be colorblind? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It used to be something we strive for. Now it's kind of a bad thing. But we'd have those kinds of dialogues. So great event.
So some of the other things we're working in terms of overall efforts for inclusion, with the Administrative Services Department, we're working on a comprehensive plan to look at city purchasing and contracting services and how that can be more inclusive. If you remember, a few months ago, we brought to you the Human Resources Tactical Plan on Inclusion to look at hiring practices that you adopted. This is on the same level that we're working on it, doing the research, coming up with a strategy, and then once we've got that, we'll bring it to you with the details and focus on briefing you just on that plan, and for you to look at adopting that as part of our overall inclusion efforts. In terms of the Human Resources Tactical Plan, again, once we presented it, that was just the beginning, so it's work on the next level of how to incorporate and integrate that into overall hiring. The next step for that is during the December quarterly managers meeting, HR and Benita are going to actually focus on training hiring managers on these recruitment practices, so this becomes part of how we do our hiring and recruitment in the city. We've had an equity lens that we created for Renton, and we've, the very first policy that we used the equity lens for was our hiring policy. But again, that was step one. Just last week, we got from the various departments different policies and different practices where either the elements of the equity lens are being used today, or that would would present themselves as opportunities for us to see if, the equity lens can be established to either develop for a policy, for a procedure. So, we kind of worked on identification of various opportunities, contracting services being one that we're working on in depth, but also looking at, communications that we do from a city standpoint. Is that being equitable? Serious ordinances like the source of income ordinance, how can that further our efforts with the equity lens? And then, we've done a series of training. Year one was training on race and structural racism. Year two was training on implicit bias. This year, we did training on implicit bias for all the employees who've joined the city since and have not had that training. Since we've had a lot of new staff members, that was a pretty large class. And we are now developing training, citywide training for 2018, and part of that training is going to include a section on cultural competency. The other thing we're going to do in 2018 is do a language line refresher training. This is once again to get folks who are new to the city, who have, who were not there for the first round of training, give them the basic tools on how to use the language line if they have an opportunity, and then also a refresher for several others who may have attended the training but not had an opportunity to use it since. Overall, the results I get from all the departments is they are using it. This is something that's getting more and more ingrained as part of the way we do business, and both the community and the departments really value this. Two other cities have actually taken our example and have incorporated language line as part of their business. The other group that we've been working with over the 2 years now, almost 2 years?
No, this is the first
This year is the Regional Equity Group. This is bringing practitioners from the different cities in our region who have, in one form or another, are looking at equity, looking at inclusion in their cities and with their communities. So we've kind of created what was first an informal group, and now it's a more formal coming together of the cities, the practitioners from the cities. We have our next meeting on Friday, and through the meetings we've had, there's enough interest in potentially having a conference. It might be a one-day conference, it might be more, for all of us to focus on equity, opportunity to share and leverage what we from each other, learn from each other, but also open the door to the broader community, saying here's what's going on and here's how you can be part of our constant communications and dialogues on equity. And then really exciting, the Renton African American pastors have kind of taken the lead and the ownership for this, but in addition to our two big events on inclusion next year, we're looking to possibly have a Juneteenth event. And again, this is at its early stage, but we do have a couple of the pastors who've already signed up to be part of the planning committee for this, members from the police department, and certainly from the city. So stay tuned as we plan the event and the details and how it'll all come together. I think it'll be another first for Renton and the region, and definitely an exciting first for us. Questions?
Great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We didn't hear from Benita tonight.
Well, I'm glad you made that observation, because my role, and we've clearly defined that from the beginning, has really been as a resource, if you will, to help the departments get a little more traction. And so as we've been more and more involved in different events and activities, I've been stepping back more, and the folks in the departments are stepping up and taking that on. And that was all part of our overall strategy in order to sustain efforts. So there were, as Preeti has mentioned several times, a lot of hands and minds and hearts behind each one of these events. And to me, the thing that is so exciting is that there's never a lack of people. You know, when for one example, when we decided to partner with the King County Library and the museum, Renton History Museum, and the city of Renton to sponsor the Under Our Skin, we sent out a request for volunteers because we wanted table group facilitators, and we needed about 10 to 12 people. And in one day, we had 10 to 12 people. So, you know, so the interest is there, the commitment is there on the part of folks. And some of those folks were city employees, and some of them were residents in the community. So there was a great mix.
I'll just add, these two have been part of, as mentioned, part of a regional group that's now getting together to share ideas on how we can move things together. I just got back, as some of you know, from a international conference, actually, and there were sessions on inclusion. They were very good, interesting sessions. Unfortunately for me, there was no new news, because these two are at the forefront of what we're doing. We know we have a lot to do in Renton, and we're excited about the progress we've made, even more excited about what we can do to make Renton an even more inclusive city, including our workforce. And other communities look to us to see how it's being done, and I think so anyway, these two and others in the city are just doing a tremendous job for us.
Great. Thank you.
I wanted to add, if I may, Benita's humble, because yes, you know, she has been part of the process from the beginning with the goal to, you know, have all these efforts sustainable and taken on, you know, kind of really integrated into every department. But that's almost so much harder to do, to, you know, to train, to encourage, to engage, to set up the systems than to do something yourself. You know, you can do something yourself in 10 minutes, but to build that infrastructure takes so much. And, you know, it's really her expertise and her ability to do that. The second thing I wanted to share, and this is also kind of responding a little bit to what Jay said, was I get asked all the time saying, what kind of support do you have in Renton? How do you make these things possible? How is it so seamless, you know, in terms of, yeah, there are events and celebrations, but there's also, you know, really the core functioning of how we've just said, you know, we are an inclusive city and we, you know, march on forward. And really the answer is your leadership at every level, your support, your, you know, being there, providing us the guidance, and that just translates through the city, through the departments at every level. And I think we're really, really privileged and unique to have that. So I wanted to say thank you from,
Thank
you know,
you.
from the other side, when I get the questions asked, and, you know, I can say this with the pride, so.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Thank you very much. We're adjourned.
Thank you.